Have you ever heard of a man who hijacked a plane, demanded a fortune, parachuted into the night, and then just vanished? This isn't a movie plot. It's the incredible true story of D.B. Cooper, the man behind the most audacious and mysterious crime in aviation history. For over 50 years, his identity has remained a secret and his fate a question mark. Did he pull off the perfect crime, or did he fall to his death in the unforgiving wilderness? Let's unravel the legend. To understand how this could even happen, we need to rewind to 1971. Air travel was a completely different world. Airport security as we know it today simply didn't exist. You could walk onto a plane without having your bags checked. There were no metal detectors, and paying for your ticket with a wad of cash was perfectly normal. Hijackings happened, but they were almost always for political reasons, with hijackers wanting to be flown to another country. What was about to unfold was something entirely new. It wasn't about politics or ideology. It was about cold, hard cash and a leap into the unknown. Our story begins on November 24, 1971, the day before Thanksgiving. A man in a dark business suit, crisp white shirt, and black tie walked up to the Northwest Orient Airlines counter in Portland, Oregon. He bought a one-way ticket to Seattle, a short 30-minute flight. He gave his name as Dan Cooper. He was polite, unassuming, and completely unremarkable. Nobody gave him a second glance as he boarded Flight 305 and took his seat. 18C, he calmly ordered a bourbon and soda, lit a cigarette, and waited. The plane took off, carrying 36 passengers and 6 crew members, all oblivious to the fact that they were flying with a man who was about to become an American folk hero. Shortly after takeoff, Cooper flagged down a flight attendant named Florence Schaffner. He handed her a neatly folded piece of paper. Thinking it was a lonely businessman's phone number, she simply slipped it into her pocket. Cooper leaned in, his voice low and steady. "Miss, you'd better look at that note." "I have a bomb." Florence's blood ran cold. She discreetly read the note. The typed message was chillingly direct. It said he had a bomb in his briefcase and demanded she sit next to him. To prove he wasn't bluffing, he cracked open the briefcase just enough for her to see a tangle of red wires, cylinders, and a large battery. Was the bomb real? To this day, nobody knows for sure. But in that moment, nobody was willing to take that chance. Cooper then calmly laid out his demands. He wanted $200,000 in cash, specifically in unmarked $20 bills. He also asked for 4 parachutes, 2 primary chutes, and 2 reserve chutes. Finally, he ordered a fuel truck to be on standby when they landed in Seattle. In exchange for all this, he promised to let all the passengers go unharmed. What was most unnerving to the crew was his demeanor. He wasn't aggressive. He wasn't agitated. He spoke politely and continued to sip his bourbon as if he were just discussing business. His complete lack of panic was more terrifying than any threat. He was in total control. The pilot radioed the authorities, relaying the hijackers' demands. The FBI scrambled. This was a situation they had never encountered before. As Flight 305 circled above Seattle, agents on the ground raced to gather the money and the parachutes. The passengers were told there was a minor mechanical issue causing the delay. They had no idea a high-stakes drama was unfolding just a few rows away. After about 2 hours of circling, the plane finally landed at Seattle-Tacoma Airport. It was parked in a remote, dimly lit section of the tarmac, surrounded by a swarm of law enforcement and FBI agents, all hidden in the darkness. Once on the ground, the exchange went exactly as Cooper had planned. A Northwest Orient employee brought the cash, packed in a heavy knapsack, and the parachutes aboard the plane. True to his word, Cooper allowed all 36 passengers and 2 of the flight attendants, including Florence Schaffner, to deplane. They walked off into the cold Seattle night, relieved but utterly bewildered. Now only Cooper and 4 crew members remained on board: the pilot, the co-pilot, a flight engineer, and one flight attendant. The first part of his plan was complete, but the most dangerous part was yet to come. With the money and parachute secured, Cooper instructed the pilot on his next move. He wanted them to refuel and take off again, this time heading south towards Mexico City. He was very specific about the flight plan. They were to fly low, under 10,000 feet, and slow, under 200 miles per hour. He also demanded that the cabin remain unpressurized and that the landing gear stay down. These were strange requests, but the crew knew they were the perfect conditions for a parachute jump. As the plane was refueling, Cooper discussed the flight path with the pilots. He seemed knowledgeable about aircraft and terrain, rejecting one proposed route because it was too close to a mountain range. Around 7:40 p.m., Flight 305 was back in the air, soaring into the stormy pitch-black sky. The remaining crew members were huddled together in the cockpit, instructed by Cooper to stay there with the door closed. A little after 8 p.m., a warning light flashed in the cockpit, indicating that the aft air the staircase at the back of the plane had been lowered. This was the moment. The pilot got on the intercom and asked Cooper if he needed anything. Cooper's reply was a simple no. That was the last anyone ever heard from him. Somewhere over the dense, rugged forests of southwestern Washington, in the middle of a freezing rainstorm, D.B. Cooper, with $200,000 strapped to his body, stepped off the back of the plane and jumped into history. A massive search operation began immediately. Hundreds of soldiers, FBI agents, and local police combed the dense wilderness believed to be Cooper's drop zone. They searched on foot, with helicopters, and even with a submarine scanning a local lake. They found nothing. No parachute, no briefcase, no money, and no sign of Cooper himself. It was as if he had been swallowed by the night sky. The FBI launched one of the most extensive and longest-running investigations in its history, codenamed Noriak. They interviewed hundreds of suspects, chased down thousands of leads, and examined every piece of evidence. The name D.B. Cooper was actually a media mistake. The hijacker called himself Dan Cooper, but a reporter misheard the name and D.B. stuck. The FBI checked every D.B. Cooper in the country, but it led nowhere. For years, the case went completely cold. It seemed like the mystery would never be solved. Then, in 1980, a young boy named Brian Ingram was digging a fire pit on a sandy bank of the Columbia River, miles from the suspected jump zone. He unearthed 3 rotting bundles of cash. He and his family turned them over to the FBI. When agents checked the serial numbers, they got a stunning match. It was a portion of Cooper's ransom money, about $5,800. This discovery only deepened the mystery. How did the money get there? Did it float down the river? Was it buried by Cooper? And if so, why only a small fraction of it? The rest of the $200,000 has never been found. Over the decades, countless theories have emerged. One theory is that Cooper was an experienced paratrooper, possibly a military veteran, who knew exactly what he was doing. He planned the jump meticulously and had an accomplice on the ground waiting to pick him up. He survived, escaped, and lived out his life with the stolen fortune. Another, more widely accepted theory, especially by the FBI, is that Cooper simply didn't survive the jump. He was a novice who wildly underestimated the danger. He jumped at night into a violent storm with wind speeds over 100 miles per hour into a heavily forested, mountainous area. The temperature was well below freezing. His clothing, a business suit and loafers, was completely inadequate. He likely died on impact or succumbed to the elements shortly after landing. The fact that he chose the older, less steerable of the 2 main parachutes also suggests he wasn't an expert. Dozens of men have been named as potential suspects. There was Richard McCoy Jr., a Vietnam veteran who staged a nearly identical hijacking just a few months later. There was Dwayne Weber, who reportedly confessed to his wife on his deathbed. I am Dan Cooper, and there was Kenneth Christensen, a former paratrooper and Northwest Airlines employee. The FBI investigated them all, but could never definitively link any of them to the crime. Every lead eventually hit a dead end. In 2016, after 45 years of dead ends, the FBI officially closed the active investigation into the D.B. Cooper case. They concluded that their resources would be better spent on other priorities, but that doesn't mean the story is over. The legend of D.B. Cooper lives on. He's become a symbol of rebellion, a folk hero who beat the system and got away with it. Books have been written, documentaries have been made, and an entire subculture of amateur sleuths continues to hunt for clues. So, what do you think happened? Did a criminal mastermind pull off the perfect crime and vanish into a new life? Or was he a reckless amateur whose luck ran out the moment he stepped off that plane? The truth is still out there, hidden somewhere in the cold, dark woods of the Pacific Northwest. Thanks for watching, and if you have your own theory, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into history's greatest mysteries.